Chris from LaserLiving.com, and I missed y'all for an entire week. Man, it's been rough. I've been extremely busy, and I haven't been in front of the camera for this channel in a while. I've been doing mostly gameplay videos with commentary over that. But, I missed this. I wanted to get that eye-to-eye contact, and I think you needed to see my pretty face, where my hair's been growing, what have you. So anyway, let's talk about it. Let's talk about The Order 1886. Man, this game's been getting shit on. This game has been getting shit on. The nicest thing people have to say about this game is that it's very pretty. It's probably the most beautiful console game to ever be released, and part of the reason is because they got the black bars, they changed the resolution, and they say it's for that more cinematic effect. I believe the developers originally tried to go for that 24 frames per second. That's the same frame rate you see in television shows and movies. And then they found out that that didn't work so good from a gameplay perspective, so they went for 30 frames per second, kind of nullifying the whole idea of getting that cinematic effect. But they still got the black bars, which gave them an increased amount of power to use towards the graphics. And that's another complaint they have here, is because while it might be pretty, there's not that much gameplay to it. It's supposedly, it's got that cinematic experience, but the game takes control out of the player's hands quite often. And there's not that much story to be had because it's a short game. A YouTube channel got completely eradicated early on when they did a playthrough of the entire game, beat it in about 5 hours and change. And the game is very short. And this has led to a whole conversation of how long should a game be? If you're charging $60, which Sony is charging $60 for this game, you're paying $60 plus tax depending on where you live, and you're getting about a 5 hour and change game. Now, a lot of people are using the argument that, back in the day, NES, Super Nintendo, you'd be paying sometimes $70, $80, and the games, you could beat them in maybe 2-3 hours. This is, by comparison, a great deal, right? Well, I suppose you have to look at the way you judge value, because times have changed, and not only have developers gotten better at making games, but games in certain aspects have become cheaper to make, because the developers of The Order are not putting these things on expensive cartridges. One of the reasons that games cost so much is because they had to put them on cartridges, which cost a lot of money to produce. And so that's why games cost a lot more money. So the only reason you're paying $60 right now for video games, or the biggest reason, is because you paid $60 last generation. And the reason they had a $10 hike last generation was because developers weren't used to HD development. And that increased development costs quite a bit. Now, this generation, no. There's not that huge jump. And the only reason you're paying more for things like season passes and just DLC in general is because you did it last generation, they got you acclimated to it, and you're just going to keep forking over money. Now, let's get back to the topic on hand. Length. Game length, that is. I'm not talking about, game length. The Order is about 5 hours, and when you compare it to older games, yes, it's longer, costs a little bit less. However, we've become accustomed to a certain amount of content per dollar in games, and you do have to ask yourself what the value is to you. Now, I personally haven't played The Order, so I can't give a full, unbiased opinion about the game. But supposedly, they're going for that cinematic experience, but the gameplay itself just is kind of boring. That's just the kind of general consensus. It's just not worth that amount of money. Now, some people really enjoy that. Some people really enjoy the cinematic experience. Other people say, you know what, I want to play a video game. I'm playing a video game to play the game. I'm not trying to play a movie light, a light version of a movie, which is what a lot of games tend to be. David Cage, man, goddamn, that's his fucking goal in this industry, is to make video games more like movies. And some people aren't down with that. Now, I wonder because The Order does not have multiplayer, which would increase the value, or the perceived value of this game by many people, tenfold. Just because multiplayer could theoretically be endless. And it doesn't have that. And I wonder if there is just a story DLC plan for this game. And I wonder if this negative perception, because I believe right now it has a 65 score on Metacritic, I wonder if this is just going to squash any potential plans for a sequel. And I feel kind of bad for the developers because this was a pretty hyped game. And Sony came out swinging last generation with the PS3. Their first-party studios were killing it. They were killing it. And with the PS4, it just seems like they were kind of sitting on their laurels. And, Sony's been going through a lot of shit recently. There's talks of them dropping their mobile division and their TV division. These were huge for Sony. And they're focusing more on the PlayStation brand, yet you don't see a lot of awesome-looking exclusives coming to the PS4, or at least not yet announced for the PS4. They've been slacking. Killzone was a disappointment for many. The Order is a disappointment for many. And then you have things like Infamous Second Son, which was kind of in the middle for people. Didn't really live up to the expectations going by the last two games. So Sony's got to step it up a little bit. That's why I kind of like the idea of the number 2 console. The number 2 console seems to fight to become the number 1 console, but the reason that they're number 2 is because they fought a little bit harder than the number 3 console. And they step it up game-wise, and they try harder price-wise than the number 1 console. That's why Nintendo, they sat on their laurels last generation, and they just let the shit get away from them. The Wii was killing it. Wii U. A lot of people don't even know it's a new system. So, these are my thoughts on The Order, 1886, cinematic gameplay, what have you. What are your thoughts? Do you think games should focus more on being games, less on being or attempting to be movies? Let me know in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll see you next time.